Voters are bracing for a bigger ballot this fall, the measures that could change the way we do business in San Diego.
I've been, walking around trying to get a Pokemon, and in the heat of the moment, I might walk into a poll, I just kind of.
Game on, the tiny monsters who are taking the augmented reality world by storm, and the humans who want to catch them all.
It's not a niche sport. It's not something that's dying. It's not something that's we've seen the end, and it's right in front of us.
Take me out to the ball game, a live look at Petco Park for tonight's All-Star Game. The fans, young and old, who can't get enough of America's pastime. KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Eric Anderson. President Barack Obama today praised the bravery of 5 police officers killed last week in Dallas. He was in Texas for a memorial service today. The shootings happened after a mostly peaceful demonstration against police shootings in Minnesota and Louisiana.
When the bullets started flying, the men and women of the Dallas police, they did not flinch, and they did not react recklessly. They showed incredible restraint. Helped in some cases by protesters, they evacuated the engine, isolated the shooter, saved more lives than we will ever know.
The president joined former President George W. Bush, the Dallas mayor, and that city's police chief. He said the recent violence appears to have exposed the deepest fault lines of our democracy.
We must reject such despair. I'm here to insist that we are not as divided as we seem. And I know that because I know America. I know how far we've come against impossible odds.
Obama asked for Americans to search for common ground in support of racial equality and justice. Former rivals Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton found some common ground today. Sanders endorsed Clinton at a campaign stop in New Hampshire. That ends a contentious Democratic primary fight. Sanders called for a political revolution during his campaign, energizing millions of voters across the country.
Together, we have begun a political revolution to transform America, and that revolution continues.
Sanders continues to try to influence the Democratic Party platform. He's promoting electoral reforms, a $15 an hour minimum wage, and tougher restrictions on Wall Street. Hillary Clinton, meanwhile, says the election will be far more enjoyable now that she and Sanders are on the same side. The nation's Attorney General is on the hot seat today, defending her decision to close the Hillary Clinton email investigation without criminal charges. Judiciary Committee Chair Robert Goodlatte questioned Loretta Lynch about whether Clinton lied about her handling of classified emails.
Let me turn your attention to Director Comey's conclusions on a variety of points. Secretary Clinton stated that she never sent or received information marked as classified on her server. Director Comey stated that was not true. Do you agree with Director Comey?
Director Comey has chosen to provide great detail into the basis for his recommendations that were ultimately provided to me. He's chosen to provide detailed statements, and I would refer you to those statements. I, as Attorney General, am not able to provide any further comment on the facts or the substance of the investigation.
Republicans have raised concerns about the decision not to prosecute Clinton. They suggest that perhaps it is a double standard that was involved there. San Diego's November election ballot keeps getting bigger and bigger. KPBS reporter Claire Tregeser says on Monday the City Council approved 8 new ballot measures.
One of the things you'll likely be voting on is whether businesses that sell recreational marijuana are taxed 8% on their sales. That's only if recreational marijuana is given the go-ahead by state voters in November. Medical marijuana is already legal in California and wouldn't be taxed. The tax money would be used for licensing and enforcement. The council also okayed a controversial ballot measure that would change San Diego's elections. If voters pass it, candidates could no longer win outright in June elections by getting more than 50% of the vote. The council also approved ballot measures to raise property taxes, to build more fire stations, to make it easier to remove an elected official from office, and to direct more funding to city parks. Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
The city attorney will draft ballot language on each measure. The council will vote on final approval in coming weeks. Baseball royalty paraded through downtown San Diego today as the lead up to tonight's Major League Baseball All-Star Game continued. A little bit of excitement there. Today's parade led by former Padres stars Trevor Hoffman and Dave Winfield. San Diego tourism leaders have been looking forward to the game and its economic impact since it was awarded to San Diego last year. But fans, some of them, have been waiting their whole lives. San Diegan Lee Cece is a season ticket holder and spent all week enjoying the All-Star related activities.
It's been an all-day thing ever since Saturday. I've enjoyed the fan fest, the games at the celebrity game and whatnot the other day, and oh yeah.
The Padres are being represented in tonight's game by Will Myers, who will bat cleanup for the National League as its designated hitter, and pitcher Drew Pomerantz, an injury fill-in. KPBS reporter Steve Walsh joins us now. He's live outside of Petco Park with all the game day excitement. Steve?
Well, that's right, Eric. We're just outside of Petco Park where they just finished up the national anthem, and so it's play ball here for the All-Star Game. This is the first All-Star Game that San Diego has hosted in 24 years. Back in the day, that was at the old Jack Murphy Stadium. The stars were Tony Gwynn, a young Barry Bonds, and Greg Maddux. This is actually a bit of unfamiliar territory for Will Meyer. The American League is actually the home team, so Meyer is going to be in the visiting dugout. So even though the game is just getting underway, Major League Baseball has been taking over downtown San Diego since the weekend. It's often considered the best All-Star game in professional sports. Major League Baseball fans descended on the city Friday for a fan fest at the San Diego Convention Center. We've seen former stars like Hall of Fame White Sox slugger Frank Thomas signing autographs. There were fans of the Royals, the Giants, and of course, the Padres.
It's pretty awesome because it showcases our city. We have an awesome ballpark. We play ball all year round here in San Diego, and it's just pretty exciting to have our hometown host the All-Star Game.
Padres first baseman Will Myers was asking if there was any secret to hitting home runs at Petco Park. Myers has hit 13 of his 19 home runs at home.
For me personally, it's just a good place to see the ball. They put up a couple new buildings there in the backdrop that I really believe helps the ball fly. So I think tonight's going to be a pretty good show. I think you're going to see a lot of long home runs.
Aside from the Fan Fest, the Home Run Derby on Monday has become almost as big a draw as tonight's game. Today's event started with a parade through downtown at noon, which began at the Manchester Hyatt and ended here at the ballpark. This All-Star team has been weighed heavily towards younger talent instead of veteran stars. In fact, 4 players on the American League's infield are all 26 years of age or younger. This is also a very diverse All-Star team, with about half the players being players of color, many of them from outside of the United States. Reporting live from Petco Park, I'm Steve Walsh.
Steve, just a quick question for you before we let you go. How is it downtown? It looked like there were a lot of people out there earlier in the day. How about now?
Well, it's a little quieter now because everybody is in this stadium right now. They say that the All-Star Game brings in about 160,000 people, about 60,000 of them visitors from outside of San Diego. We're seeing all sorts of people in Major League paraphernalia just prior to the game, people, Giants and Royals, and of course there are a lot of Cubs out there because a lot of people are Cub fans.
It's your hat. Nice hat there, Steve. Thank you very much for that. You know, the national pastime is thriving at the major league level, but for years the sport has struggled to attract younger players. A recent survey finds that more children are playing baseball recently, but a small uptick doesn't reverse years of declines. There is no doubt for 13-year-old Max Shebestari, hitting is his favorite part of the game.
There's so many ways they can get you out. There's 9 people trying to get you out, and you're 1 against 9.
Shebestari played in his first organized T-ball game when he was 5. 8 years later, he's one of the best players in his neighborhood league. And this is tournament season for the San Carlos All-Stars.
And it's kind of like playing in the major leagues where every team's really good, like it's the top-tier talent. And then you play each other to go to the World Series.
That's the Little League World Series in Pennsylvania. The dreams at this age are as big as a hitter's eyes when a soft, high pitch comes floating over the plate. Anything is possible. San Carlos coach Pete DeLuca says it's a special time for these boys of summer, although they may not realize it right now.
Little League to me is something that they'll grow up forever and remember. And say, hey, remember, Johnny, when we played and you did this and you did that, or you hit that 2-run home run that won the game? I mean, I still have good friends of mine that live in the neighborhood that we played Little League together, and we still have stories, and it just makes it great, you know.
But these aren't the best of times for baseball. The Sports Fitness and Industry Association tracks sports participation. Association surveys found more than 1 million fewer 6 to 12-year-olds played baseball last year compared to just 8 years earlier. President and CEO Tom Cove says baseball is no longer the #1 option for kids seeking a sport.
It's not 1947. It's not, back then it was boys, now it's clearly boys and girls. Isn't going to just pick up a baseball and be throwing it around with his or her friend, and it's going to, build itself for the next 20 years.
Cove says baseball is dealing with competition. There's a push to limit kids to one sport so they can improve. And the recession kept some potential ball players off the diamond because of the cost to play. But Cove says participation rates did inch up in its 2016 survey, ending a decades-long slide.
It's not a niche sport. It's not something that's dying. It's not something that's we've seen the end, and it's right in front of us. But the challenge of being able to make it interesting to kids and make it something that they got to get over the hump between start and complete a commitment to it.
Major League Baseball took a look at the declining participation numbers last year and launched an effort to connect kids with the game.
Amen, let's play ball.
Slick, highly produced television ads show kids and adults playing ball in organized settings, in backyards, and on streets. This ad and others like it are part of Major League Baseball's campaign to get more people to slip on a baseball glove or to swing a bat.
Bye-bye. See you later.
Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred has only been on the job for a year and a half, but is already trying to win back those who dropped the game. On the league's website, the commissioner says one strategy is baseball clinics.
Our early efforts with these programs have shown us that not only do the kids have a great time, but it provides a unique opportunity for the community to work together on a project that's in everyone's interest.
Manfred is also tapping the sports stars to preach the gospel of the game.
Oh, that's pretty. How about that?
Arenado just continues to be dominant.
When you do flip drills at home, no rush, right?
The San Diego Padres are on board. The organization passed out 25,000 jerseys, caps, and headbands to local baseball and softball leagues. They're also responsible for renovating more than 40 baseball fields all over the county. San Carlos coach Pete DeLuca welcomes the efforts to bring the game to kids. He says supportive coaches have an important role to play, but ultimately, he says, it is the parents who will make a difference.
I think parents will come to their sense and really understand that it is a big part of their lives. That, it's something that, to me, I would never have done without it. I played in the same San Carlos Little League when I was 7.
DeLuca says hard work, dedication, and teamwork are just some of the lessons Little League helps teach. He says the game also builds memories that can connect generations and create a bridge that brings more kids to the game, so the nation's pastime will have a future. Video journalist Matt Bowler helped produce that story. And in case you're wondering, San Carlos did win its district championship last Sunday. They have now moved on to the sectionals. San Diego is getting a connection to the International Space Station. The city's mayor, Kevin Faulkner, says the agency that oversees science on the orbital lab will soon have its own office here. He says the region landed the office because San Diego is a research and commercial innovation hub.
And I'm very proud that the operators of the U.S. lab on the International Space Station are establishing a permanent presence here in San Diego. And this adds an incredible dynamic to our innovation economy.
The U.S. National Lab is on board the International Space Station, so our lab is here in San Diego, but 250 miles overhead. So it orbits around San Diego and around the globe. So the lab is...
Janice Stoudemeyer is already working in San Diego for the center. She says their own office will be open soon. The San Diego field office is the only one located outside of NASA hubs in Texas and Florida. Navigating a psychiatric emergency can be scary and overwhelming, but KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg says now there's a free mobile app designed to help people get through the process in San Diego.
The app is called OSCAR, which stands for Organized Support Companion in Emergencies. It offers information on what to do before, during, and after a psychiatric crisis. It also provides quick access to a host of local resources. Renee Cookson is with the San Diego chapter of the National Alliance for Mental Illness. She helped develop the app.
We just felt like we needed to be able to explain to people what is a crisis, and once they go to the hospital, what does that look like? And what is my loved one going through in the emergency department?
Cookson says the app is designed to help people reduce their anxiety and better manage an acute episode of mental illness. Kenny Goldberg, KPBS News.
San Diego scientists have built a new underwater microscope to take a closer look at the tiny worlds on the ocean floor. KPBS science reporter David Wagner has details.
Getting a real good look at tiny ocean organisms isn't easy. For instance, the little polyps that make up coral reefs don't behave the same way in the lab as they do in their natural habitat. Scientists at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography have built a new kind of microscope to tackle this problem. Jules Jaffe led the project. He says instead of bringing bits of the ocean back to the lab, he and his colleagues want to bring the lab to the ocean.
When we show these to people that are experts in these areas, they think that the resolution and the quality of the pictures that we're getting are unprecedented.
The contraption comes in two parts. A scuba diver manually operates a handheld computer, which is linked with a long cylindrical lens outfitted with LED lights. Already, Scripps scientists have used the microscope to see millimeter-sized coral polyps pressing their mouths together in a kind of kiss. They also saw corals fighting by deploying parts of their digestive systems against each other.
Because they want to kill the other thing. I don't think they really want to eat it. I think they just want to move over into its space.
The researchers also captured images off the coast of Maui that show what corals there look like now in the wake of massive coral bleaching. They hope this microscope will help scientists better understand how tiny organisms are responding to this time of massive change for ocean ecosystems. David Wagner, KPBS News.
Federal safety investigators are taking a closer look at the autopilot system built into California-based Tesla's electric cars. That comes after a fatal crash in Florida. A man was killed in May when his car hit a tractor trailer. Tesla Motors says the car's cameras couldn't tell the difference between a bright sky and the white side of that vehicle. The company has until next month to hand over information about that crash and details on all other known crashes. The man leading U.S. Customs and Border Protection says he'll retire in December. Gil Kerlikowske has been the agency's commissioner for more than 2 years. He worked to change many of the agency's policies on use of force, both on when force can be used and how the use of force gets reported to the public. San Diego's annual Pride celebration gets underway this weekend. Today, the City Council declaring July to be LGBT Pride Month in the city. That proclamation came with the recognition of last month's shootings at a gay nightclub in Orlando. San Diego Pride begins with a block party in Hillcrest on Friday, and the annual Pride Parade begins on Saturday morning. Let's take another look from right outside of Petco Park, where the AllStar Game is going to be played tonight. And as you can see, just wonderful conditions there weather-wise. Temperature is going to be making for perfect baseball weather. Molly Cochran has tonight's KPBS weather report.
Dry conditions continue across much of California. Take a good look at our satellite and radar. You can barely even tell this is moving at all. Over the past 6 hours, it's been dry and sunny. We do have a few clouds and showers moving into the Pac Northwest, but not impacting the California coast. Pretty similar conditions compared to yesterday. Now, we do have an onshore flow, so that's allowing for some lower clouds to kick off the day, but quickly burning off for the PM. Plenty of bright sunshine. And for tonight, we'll have a pretty similar forecast to last night, and that is clear conditions. Shouldn't have any trouble getting home from work. No weather-related delays expected, but an thickening in cloud cover coming in late. Overnight low right around 64 degrees, and that's pretty close to average for this time of year. Take a look at temperatures along the coast in the lower 60s, and we don't have any beach hazards in effect either, so looking at some good swimming conditions into tomorrow and over the next few days. The higher elevations going to be a little bit cooler. Mount Laguna coming in at 50 degrees tonight. Borrego Springs coming in at 66, and we will be dry. So as we move into the middle half of the week, pretty seasonal. Temperatures really aren't all that off from average. We'll stay a little bit cooler along the immediate coastline. The interior section's starting to heat up, and this time of year, it's not out of the norm that we would see some monsoonal moisture coming up, but we have this area of high pressure, and that's just deflecting any of the cloud cover and the monsoonal rain from getting into Arizona and Nevada. So it is rather dry as we head into the middle to later half of this week. And this is just a closer look Thursday and Friday. Your typical summer heat building in the interior sections, cool at the coastline with a nice sea breeze, and some of those low clouds will linger late in the overnight hours and into the early morning hours as well. So along the coastline over the next couple of days, partly sunny skies on Thursday. Temperature of 77 will stay in the mid to upper 70s on Friday. These temperatures pretty close to where we should be at for this time of year. Upcoming weekend looking good and clear, but remember, starting things off with some lower clouds. Farther inland, temperatures just a few degrees higher, 78 on Thursday, 77 on Friday, and we'll have those temperatures stay in the 70s for the upcoming weekend with plenty of bright sunshine. For the mountains, the afternoon heating up quite nicely in the mid to upper 80s, and then the overnight allowing to cool off back into the lower to mid 50s. We'll have that sunshine stick around for Saturday and Sunday. Then in the desert, we are feeling quite warm, well into the triple digits for the later half of the week. Lots of sunshine coming up, and that'll stick around for the weekend. Molly Cochran, KPBS News.
A proposed measure that would guide the future of San Diego's tourism industry has enough signatures to qualify for the November ballot. That word late today from the San Diego City Clerk. The Citizens Plan for San Diego would raise hotel room taxes by 5% to 15.5%. It would also require voter approval for public funds to build a new stadium for the Chargers, and it would prohibit a waterfront expansion of the San Diego Convention Center. The nation's oldest full-time park ranger returned to work today, 3 weeks after she was attacked and robbed in her San Francisco Bay Area home. 94-year-old Betty Reed Soskin works at Rosie the Riveter World War II Homefront National Historic Park in Richmond. Police say that an intruder punched Soskin and stole several items, including a coin that she got from President Barack Obama. The attacker hasn't been caught. The White House says it will replace that coin. Watch out, gamers are tripping over themselves to catch the latest smartphone craze. You might have seen them standing, staring, and maybe even straining to play Pokemon Go. Our newsroom spotted Pidgey the other day, and Diglett also popped up. Associated Press reporter Ezra Kaplan says the game became the top-grossing app just days after its release.
A new mobile game has people wandering around the city with their eyes glued to their smartphones.
I'm playing Pokemon Go.
The game is GPS-based and sends players all over looking for Pokemon, like Pikachu and Squirtle. Players have to physically move to interact with the virtual world where the game is based. When they find one of the mystical creatures, it appears amongst the real world on their smartphone screen.
It's addicting catching the Pokemon and like new Pokemon and all that, and walking around and stuff.
The augmented reality game was released last week in the U.S. and quickly went viral. Already, reports have sprung up around the country of Pokemon-related injuries.
I've been, walking around trying to get a Pokemon, and in the heat of the moment, I might walk into a pole, I just kind of jerked a little bit to the right after I did. That's the worst that happened.
But the nostalgia of the 90s card game and TV show is what draws these millennials to keep playing the game.
It's a cool thing just to collect the Pokemon. That was always something that when we were younger we wanted to do. We wanted to catch them all, and we can actually catch them all in this game.
Many others are catching on as well. Pokemon Go is currently the top grossing app in both iTunes and Google Play. Ezra Kaplan, Associated Press.
Here's a look at what we're working on tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom on Morning Edition. A new study shows that expanding the energy grid in California could save ratepayers more than $1 billion. That's tomorrow on KPBS Radio. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Evening Edition will be back here again tomorrow night at this time. Have a great evening.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. 'Cause it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old